Hello everyone, and welcome back to Turkish series Stars. I'm thrilled you're here with me, because today we're opening the door to a conversation that's been humming louder and louder across timelines and fan groups, a conversation that touches on image, identity, and the fragile expectations we all place on the faces we love. We're talking about a fresh wave of reactions to the new looks of Baris Ardoch and Elsen Sangu, a pair whose names can stop a scroll and stir 1,000 comments with a single appearance. This isn't a simple like it or don't situation. This is about how a look can feel like a message, and how that message gets interpreted, twisted, defended, and debated with all the passion of a fandom that still remembers every laugh, every glance, every heartbeat from Karalık Aşk. Before we dive into the storm, a quick reminder: if you haven't subscribed to Turkish series Stars, this is your moment. Tap that button, turn on your notifications, and join the family that never sleeps when it comes to the most dramatic, most intimate, most unfiltered corners of Turkish entertainment. Because right now, we need every voice at the table, especially yours. Let's begin with the man of the moment, Baris Ardoch. He's always been the kind of leading man who could be both steel and velvet, a strong jaw wrapped around a soft smile, intensity softened by a teasing warmth. But lately, he's stepped into projects that demand a different presence, bigger, fiercer, more physically defined. The beard's been heavier, the training more visible, the styling tougher, almost warrior-like. If you've watched him prepare for epic roles, you've seen the transformation. The gym sessions, the shadowed cheekbones, the quiet stare that says I'm here to conquer something. And fans have noticed every inch of it. Some celebrate the dedication, applauding the discipline it takes to build a body that can carry the weight of history and action on screen. They see it as growth, as ambition, as a choice that opens doors to roles beyond the charming romantic lead who once bumbled adorably through a borrowed tie and a stolen kiss. Others feel an ache they can't fully name. They miss the disarming playfulness, the sense that behind the charisma was someone accessible, relaxed, even a little goofy. They whisper that the new look leans too hard into an ironclad masculinity, that the edges are getting too sharp, that the gentleness they held onto is slipping out of frame. The word toxic gets thrown around like it always does online, sometimes thoughtfully, sometimes carelessly. Is this masculinity a performance for the gaze, or is it an artist's natural evolution toward the roles his talent has earned him? Where is the line between reinvention and reinvention performed? The debate burns because both answers can feel true at once, depending on what you need from him. And if you've ever loved a character so much you kept their photos on your phone long after the finale, you know that a look isn't just a look. It's a memory. It's a promise. It's a version of your own story reflected back to you. Now to his famous counterpart, the luminous, sharp-witted, endlessly captivating Elsen Sangu. She has always been adored for her effortless radiance, that unmistakable auburn hair catching the light like a secret flame, the freckled glow and the wry smile that felt so human, so close. Part of her magic was the sense that she never tried too hard, she arrived as she was, and the camera was grateful. Lately, though, her appearances have sparked murmurs. A more sculpted makeup look. Sleek, editorial hair. Photographs that seem meticulously polished, skin like porcelain, angles like architecture. The effect is stylish, modern, a touch of high-fashion austerity. For some, it's thrilling, a sign of a woman in full control of her narrative, a star who knows when to modulate her image to match the moment. For others, there's a pang of nostalgia. They worry she's drifting away from the spontaneous glow that made them feel they could meet her in a cafe and chat like old friends. The speculation machine, reliably unkind, chugs along. Is it trend-driven? Is it pressure? Is it a concession to international aesthetics? Or is it simply a bold phase, a playful experiment in a career that refuses to be boxed in by what used to work? And maybe that's the most honest tension here. We watched Baris and Elsen transform a rom-com into a cultural pulse point, giving us characters who taught us how to laugh at our own chaos and fall in love with our own mess. We stored those versions of them in our hearts like treasures that would never tarnish. But time moves. Careers widen. The same faces begin to carry new stories, heavier stories sometimes, riskier ones. The industry pulls. The mirror blinks. The click of a shutter becomes a courtroom gavel, and the sentence. Too much, too little, too late, arrives far too fast. Social media turns the volume up on everything. One sharply worded post multiplies into 100 reactions, 1,000 retweets, 10,000 comments layered with sincerity and snark. We see side-by-side collages. We see edits that amplify the differences. We see threads dissecting lighting, contour, facial hair, posture again. We see supportive fans repeating the mantra that actors are allowed to grow and change, and we see purists digging their heels in, insisting that the essence they fell for shouldn't be sacrificed for a trend or a role. But here's the pivot. Image is not a static thing you pin to a wall and preserve under glass. Image is a language. Every choice is a verb. When Baris steps out with a sculpted silhouette and a heavier gaze, he's communicating ambition, challenge, a readiness to shoulder complexity. When Elsen arrives in a sleek, perfectly calibrated look, she's telling a story about control, about precision, about a woman who knows exactly where she is in the frame and how to use that power. These are not neutral acts. They are sentences in the ongoing autobiography of a public figure's career. The question that stings is this. How much of that autobiography do we think belongs to us? Fans who grew up with the flirty innocence of Karolic Ask carry a form of ownership that's both tender and territorial. You held their characters during your own vulnerable years. You learned to hope again with them. And so when the glow changes, when softness hardens into a cutting edge or spontaneity sharpens into stylized intent, it can feel like a personal loss. We grieve a hairstyle like we grieve a bygone summer. It sounds ridiculous until you remember how memory works. Small details carry entire feelings. A beard is never just a beard. A red lipstick is never just a red lipstick. They're doorways. Recently, we've seen this swirl ignite after a flurry of appearances. Baris walked a charity gala carpet in a midnight suit that fit like an oath, his beard trimmed with a severity that paired beautifully with the unspoken intensity in his eyes. The photos were everywhere within minutes. Clips of him training, pull-ups, weighted sprints, the kind of grind that builds a legend, flooded feeds, and suddenly the word stoic was trending next to his name. Admirers praised the discipline. Skeptics asked what happened to that playful grin from behind the office desk in those earlier days. The truth, of course, is that both men live in the same body. It's the spotlight that changes the angle. And then there was Elsen's campaign reveal, the kind that stops a room. She stepped into a silhouette of liquid satin, hair sculpted into a rich, glossy cascade, makeup carved with painterly precision. It was breathtaking, undeniably. But it also triggered a familiar dance online, fans defending her right to reinvent, others pleading for the freckles to return, the softer makeup, the barely there touch that once felt like a rebellion against the excessive. Close observers pointed to high-resolution retouching and studio lighting, trying to explain away the porcelain effect, while stylists chimed in about editorial moods, brand direction, the story a design is built to tell. That's the thing many forget, a look isn't just a look. It's collaboration. It's the director's mood board, the stylist's eye, the brand's brief, the photographer's lens, the publicist's plan, and the artist's own boundary lines. Sometimes firm, sometimes flexible, always evolving. If an image feels like a departure, it may be because it is, by design. Departures can be thrilling. They can also be disorienting. Both feelings are valid, and both should have space. Some argue that the shift we're seeing from both of them is a strategic widening of horizons. Baris is repositioning himself as a performer whose range can hold multitudes. The romantic lead, yes, but also the fighter, the leader, the quiet storm who carries battles you can't see. Elsen is leaning into luxe, proving she can be the girl next door and the woman at the center of the chandelier glow, all cheekbones and intention, all poise with a hint of danger. The irony, of course, is that the very versatility fans say they want sometimes looks like loss when it arrives in the form of a new face in the mirror. But there's more. In quieter moments, the facade slips, and we remember who they are outside the spotlight's choreography. A passerby's video catches Baris in a hoodie and cap on a cloudy morning walk, a dog tugging him toward a patch of grass, his grin sudden and uncalculated as he waves at a shy hello. A cafe sighting shows Elsen with minimal makeup, hair loose and unbothered, laughing at something on a friend's phone, a hand covering her mouth the way we've all done when something is too funny to be elegant. Those frames don't go as viral, but they tell a truth the polished images can't. The core doesn't vanish. It adapts. Still, the debate burns because the stakes feel weirdly high. We're living in a time where a single image can sway casting decisions, brand deals, editorial direction. A look becomes a currency, and fans know it. They advocate because they think, sometimes rightly, that their chorus can influence the next turn in a career. Was this all a PR gambit? Was it just a mood? Did a brand push too hard? Or is this precisely the point, artists pushing against the comfort zone you built for them, carving out space to surprise you again? If we circle back to the heart of it, we land on a paradox. We want authenticity, but we also want variety. We want our stars to remain exactly as we fell for them, but we complain when they repeat themselves. We claim to celebrate daring choices, yet we flinch when those choices disrupt the nostalgia that protects us from change. Baris's rugged ferocity unsettles those who miss the warm humor, even as it thrills those who long to see him slam into roles with physical and emotional gravity. Elsen's editorial polish unsettles those who adored her breezy spontaneity, even as it electrifies those who want her to claim the screens with an air of unassailable command. Maybe the lesson is not to ask them to shrink themselves for our comfort, but to expand ourselves for their evolution. We can hold the memory and the moment at the same time. We can love the soft grin and the stoic jawline. We can cherish the freckled glow and the sculpted silhouette. These aren't betrayals. They're chapters. And if there's anything Baris and Elsen have taught us together and apart, it's that a great story isn't one note, it's a melody, sometimes playful, sometimes aching, sometimes blazing, always alive. As the discourse rages, one detail gets drowned out, neither of them owes us stasis. They owe us their best work, their most truthful choices in the roles they accept and the stories they tell. If a beard makes a character more believable, if a sharp makeup look transforms a scene into a statement, then those decisions serve the art. That doesn't mean your feelings don't matter, they do. They're part of the ecosystem. Your comments influence conversations, and conversations influence careers. But maybe the most generous form of fandom is curiosity over certainty, questions over verdicts, empathy over outrage. Look at the arc. After the mania of Karalik Ask, both could have coasted on that glow forever. Instead, they pushed. They risked. They chose work that required new muscles. The result is a collage of images, some tender, some severe, some intimate, some impossibly grand, that together chart a pair of artists refusing to get stuck at the point where we first loved them. That initial love was real. But so is the need to move, to try, to fail sometimes, to dazzle often, to scare us and thrill us and make us argue late into the night because we care too much to look away. So where does that leave us tonight? Right here, in a moment that asks for grace. For Baris, the new physicality is not a goodbye to warmth. It's an expansion, a layer that lets him carry roles with grit without abandoning the humanity that made you fall for his characters in the first place. For Elsen, the sculpted elegance is not a rejection of natural beauty. It's a tool, a mode she can switch on and off, a reminder that she can be both the sunlit window and the chandelier's fractured light, depending on what the story needs. As for the surprising critique that set this whole conversation ablaze, maybe the surprise isn't that people have opinions. Maybe it's the sheer range of them, the raw passion on all sides, the way one photo can feel like a referendum on the past and a prophecy for the future. That's the power of public image. It plays with time. And it pulls all of us into the game. If you've made it this far, you know this isn't just gossip. This is a love letter to complexity. It's a reminder that the images we hold close are alive, that they evolve with the people behind them, and that if we let them, they can teach us to evolve, too. So tell me what you see when you look at the latest photos and clips. Do you feel the same warm spark, just dressed in a new costume? Do you feel challenged, provoked, a little off balance, and is that entirely a bad thing? I want to hear you. I want to hear all of you. Drop your thoughts in the comments and keep it bold but kind. If this conversation made you feel something, nostalgia, excitement, frustration, hope, tap that like button and send this video to the friend who still keeps a Kerala Ask scene on their home screen. And if you haven't joined us yet, subscribe to Turkish series Stars and ring the bell, because this story is still being written, and when the next chapter lands, you'll want to be here first, arguing, laughing, remembering, and loving as only this fandom knows how. Until the next video, stay curious, stay generous, and keep your heart open to the many faces of the people who once taught you that a glance can change everything, and who are still brave enough to change right in front of your eyes.